Hi guys, let's talk about trust today. Join me to discuss the video that you hopefully have watched about trust and this beautiful acronym that, hi Afruz, that defines trust. So let me know if you've watched the video and if you'd like to join me to ask and answer some questions.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. We have the same time, right?
Yes, we
We're
do.
in the
It
same
is
time zone. Okay.
11:05 in the morning.
Oh, I started late?
You
Really?
started late, Liz. I was kind of wondering what's going on. This is very unlike you.
Is it really? No.
You're usually on the ball. You're like the most professional person I've met on Instagram.
Oh, that's so sweet of you to say. I don't know how true that is, but that's very sweet indeed. So, Ronan, you watched the video.
I did, and I
You
thought
liked
it
it?
was. So first of all, I just got to say you are amazing for picking out these really, really interesting, gripping, and relevant videos. So kudos to Firuzeh for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think today, especially, it is insanely relevant today because trust in yourself, trust in a partner, trust in society, police, government, politicians, everything is so in our faces these days. And it's around us everywhere.
Very relevant today. I have no sound.
Now, I can hear you just fine.
So if other people can tell me if they can't hear me, I don't know. Deadpool is saying he can't hear me. Might be one man's hearing problem. So
That could
let
be
me
his
know.
phone. Have you tried turning up the volume, sir?
Yeah. So that might work. So let's start with questions. Would you like to start?
Okay, I'll start. So, well, first of all, I mean, I just need to say that, like, I have always believed that you, as a person, are only responsible for yourself. You know, that's one thing I've always believed, and my parents have always ingrained that in me and my siblings, where it's kind of like, you're not responsible for anyone else. And my mother would be the first one to say, you are not responsible for us. And that's like contrary to what a lot of other people would say to me, what a lot of my students have said to me, where it's like, who's going to take, because I say to my students, I don't want kids. And then they say, who's going to take care of you when you're older? And my response is, well, why are you having kids if the only purpose they serve is to take care of you when you're older? It's a little selfish, I believe. But
that's the lousiest reason to have kids.
I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree
So
more.
distorted.
Yeah. But I just wanted to start off by saying that that's something that I strongly believe in, and that's kind of what she touches on here. So I think the first question will be to talk about the acronym. So the acronym was braving. Braving. And it's layered, like tiramisu layered, and all this other stuff. But can anyone tell me what the B in braving stands for? What does the B in braving stand for?
Awesome first question. Braving. Thank you so much, Fazad, for writing that. So this is the acronym. An acronym is a word in which all the letters stand for another word, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Fazad is saying boundaries.
Yes.
There you go. So B stands for boundaries. And
So
it is such an important concept and such an important practice, right? And usually when you're young and inexperienced, you have a hard time setting boundaries. And when you're not confident about yourself and you don't have a fixed identity, I would say, then you have a hard time fixing boundaries and respecting other people's boundaries because it's two-way, right?
good. So respect boundaries. Set boundaries is another one. You need to set boundaries. You need to respect boundaries, and you should never break boundaries.
Very good collocation. So we say to set boundaries, which means to determine what you will accept and what you won't accept, and then to respect other people's boundaries, which means the things you can ask, the things you can talk about with other people, and how much you can, intrude or not. And
Yeah.
then what was the other one that you said? Set
To
boundaries, respect.
break boundaries, for example.
So if you have a good understanding of your own boundaries and other people's boundaries, then you don't break those boundaries.
Yeah. And these are not tangible boundaries. These are all intangible. These are all just like you can't see these boundaries, but you should know about them to a certain degree. And I mean, a big issue, for example, during COVID, a lot of people started working at home. And then suddenly it was a little more difficult for people to have a work-life balance, because now if you're working at home, you might associate your computer just with work. And people failed to differentiate the boundaries of work and pleasure, and they kind of merge into one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point that you said in the beginning. You said that it is not physical, because boundary could have two distinct meanings. Sometimes it's a physical boundary, like it's a border that determines distinct territories, sometimes between cities and countries and areas. And then sometimes it's the conceptual boundary that you said when people work at home, there's no boundary between work and regular life.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be a huge problem.
Yeah, yes. Okay, so I'm going to ask about the next word, which is an adjective. She gives this a psychologist, Brene Brown. She's not a psychologist. She's a social scientist. She gives a beautiful definition of trust. She says, trust is making what's important to you, and then she uses an adjective, to the action of other people. This adjective means when something is easily heard, is prone to danger.
Oh, yeah.
What do you guys think? I think it's a beautiful, beautiful definition of trust, which sometimes people don't know of, so they trust other people, or we trust other people. I'm part of it, without knowing that we are actually doing that. We are making what's really important to us to the actions of somebody else. So this adjective means easily hurt, easily damaged, prone, susceptible. Very good, Raheel.
There we go.
So vulnerable is the adjective. So no, don't give away Ghazal all the answers.
Eager beavers here, eager beavers.
Yeah, vulnerable, very good. So vulnerable could have two very different meanings, again, like boundaries that we talked about. Sometimes if you're physically vulnerable to a disease, so for example in this COVID era, we say older people are more vulnerable to this virus, which means they're more easily affected by that virus. Fragile is a good synonym, very good. Fatih. Fragile is a good synonym, fragile, vulnerable. And then sometimes you're emotionally vulnerable, which means when you, for example, tell your secrets to someone else, or you expose yourself emotionally, and then it makes you vulnerable because the other person can take advantage of the things you've shared with them.
Yeah, you need to have absolute trust if you want to like be vulnerable to someone. And there's very few people that I would personally open up to and be vulnerable to. Very few people, because it's such a big thing that she talks about in this video, is that when you are 100% honest with someone, you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position. So a vulnerable position, and sometimes it can absolutely backfire on you, and that is horrible. It's horrendous when it backfires on you.
Yes, that's very true. So it goes back to the idea of boundaries too, you know, to know how much you need to be vulnerable with certain people. Sometimes people just start talking about their deepest secrets to a stranger and they feel like that's vulnerability, that's true vulnerability or power or intimacy, but that's just fake, I would say. But to know how much you can divulge and how much you can tell other people about your inner feelings and your secrets and the things that you would, as you say, you probably would want to just share with a few people. Brené Brown has this amazing TED Talk, The Power of Vulnerability. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
It's an amazing TED Talk. And she also, I think it used to also be a book, but I'm not able to find the book. I think it's just an audio version of the book. So it's a beautiful talk. She talks about how powerful it is to be vulnerable, to want to make yourself vulnerable. It is when beautiful things are created in life.
I agree. It is when beautiful things are created, and that's why you need to err on the side of caution when you decide to be vulnerable. That's what I believe. You know, you don't want to be vulnerable to strangers, you know? And that's my opinion. If you're going to be vulnerable, make sure you do it wisely, to be honest.
You know, I would say I thought like that up until a few years ago. Absolutely, completely. I would have never imagined that it could be vulnerable with strangers. But then it is also sometimes when you really care about other people's opinion, you know, when you make yourself vulnerable, there are always people who will take advantage of it, will interpret it differently, and it's not safe for you. But then I would say, you know, F it. If people want to do that, let them do that. You know, I'm doing that for a few people probably who will not take advantage of it, who will share my feelings and who will know that I have the same feelings as they do. And I've gone through the same things as they have probably. So it shows our mutual humanity sometimes to be able to do that, to tell the other person that I feel this way or I felt that way. And then there are always people who take advantage of it.
Always.
So vulnerable, and then the noun for vulnerable is vulnerability, right? So, and then it has, when speaking of pronunciation, it has different, they have different stress positions, right? So when we say vulnerable, the stress falls on the first syllable. And then when we say vulnerability, the stress is on ability. Okay, so let's do the next one.
All right, I'm going to move away from braving for a moment because everyone has that already. Anyone who's watched the video has braving. So I'm going to move on to another one, and it's actually kind of like a collocation. So it's 3 words together, 3 different words together. And I'll give you the first 2 words, and you all got to think of the last one. So this is to deliver on something. Deliver on what? Deliver on plus noun. So if you have a really good friend, someone who you really trust, if you have a partner in life, you would like to think that they will always deliver on something. What is the missing word? Deliver on.
I think that's a great question because collocations are so important. So you're asking for that missing word that collocates with that, to deliver on. Let me pin that.
So what can you deliver on?
Which means to fulfill, right?
Yes. Oh, that's a great way. That's absolutely to fulfill, to complete, to follow through with.
To follow through with.
This is a tough one, I think, for some people, because it's she just mentions it in passing, you know, she doesn't focus the entire minute or anything on it.
And we can also collocate that with a few words, right? We could play with that. We could fill in that blank with a few words. But what she says...
Well, you can like deliver on a promise, for example. So what's another way to say a promise?
Okay. Okay. That's what I had in mind. So it's not promise.
No, it's not promise. She has a
Okay.
different one. It begins
It's
with
not that easy.
C.
Okay. So it means promise. This word that
Yes,
begins with C means you deliver on your promise. You can also say you deliver on your words simply, right?
that's a good
When you
one.
say
Yeah,
something,
absolutely.
you deliver on your words, which means to live up to your words. We can also
Yeah.
say that. Live up to your promise. I think we have it.
Boom! Yes. Elna Friz, if that's how you pronounce it. I do not know. I probably butchered your name, but yes.
Elmas. Okay, so deliver on a commitment. That's a nice phrase, to deliver on a
Absolutely.
commitment.
It's
Okay.
beautiful. It's, again, absolutely relevant. I mean, where do we begin with delivering on commitments? Let's think about it. Politicians. How often do politicians actually deliver on their commitments? In my experience, rarely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hardly ever. So let's talk about this word commitment, because it's an interesting word, because it has two completely different meanings, right? So
Absolutely.
if you commit to something or to someone, the verb to commit with a schwa sound in the beginning, when you commit to someone or something, you you kind of like, you fulfill your promises and you live up to your promises. You do your responsibilities. You say what you said you would do. And then
Yes.
there's also another meaning. Can anyone guess that or write that? A completely different meaning of commit. For example, you can say commit. I'm not going to make examples because it'll make it too easy, right?
Is there a preposition after it?
Sometimes not. I mean, I see what you mean with that preposition, but sometimes there's no preposition and the meaning is completely different.
Hmm. So
To participate, to commit a crime, for example. Very good.
nice
This means
collocation.
to do. So when you commit suicide or commit a crime or commit an offense, commit, which means do something illegal. I love that. So commit means to do something, usually do something bad or illegal. We
Yeah.
use it in that sense. And then you were talking about commit to someone, right?
Commit
Or,
to someone or commit to something. You know, so there's two ways. Like I commit to a partner. You know, you might, if you get married, the idea is that you commit to a partner for life, for example. And then politicians might commit to the political plan of building more hospitals, for example. Commit adultery, great example right there.
Yeah. I'll commit my goal. You have to say you commit to your goal, right? The preposition.
Yeah, and if you do not commit yourself 100% to something, don't do it. There's no point in doing it if you're not going to commit 100%.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Of course. So it's your turn.
My turn?
Isn't it? No. Yeah, okay. Sorry. So let's see. Is it taking too long?
No. Embrace the silence.
Yeah, some people are really uncomfortable with silence.
I love being uncomfortable.
You love being uncomfortable?
We're uncomfortable.
That's funny. Okay, so I'm going to ask about this expression that you use to say about. So it's another way of saying about, related to. It's a nice expression that you can use. It's a little bit probably more formal than saying about something or related to something. So she's talking about reliability, which is one of the pillars of trust, right? And she says, when you think about research or in the area of research, it means regarding. Very good. That's another synonym. So for example, regarding something, or it can also say with regard to something, right? Or about something, or related to that. So it is an expression that she uses. It starts with in. It has 3 components, 3 parts.
In.
Ronan is able to see as excellently as an eagle in that far distance. What are you seeing?
Well, they're just wondering how I can read the comments, but I'll let you in on the secret. These eyes cost me $4,000. That's why I can see better. I got laser surgery 2 years ago.
Okay, and we have the answer.
Boom.
Awesome. In terms of. Very good. So she says, in terms of research, reliability is this and that. When you say in terms of something, it means in that's related to that subject, right?
Absolutely. In terms of politics, in my humble opinion, the USA is a shit show. Excuse my French, but it's a shit show.
You're allowed. It's relevant.
In terms of people, I absolutely love the United States. Love, love, love.
But you know, you have to consider that 50% of the people voted for someone who created this shit show.
True, but dialogue would be necessary if we do not engage in dialogue. So in terms of achieving a better country, a better society, dialogue is important in terms of achieving, for example.
Absolutely. Dialogue and communication. The problem is that sometimes people are just so set in their beliefs and ideas that there is no talking to them. There is no.
Oh my God! Like every country has that. And I mean, for me, Northern Ireland would be the best example in terms of politics. Northern Ireland is horrendous. It's terrible in terms of politics. So.
And we have an example. So in terms of money, Ronan has no money now because. So did you do the LASIK or laser?
Yeah, I think it was a PKR I got because I got a weird lung condition, so they weren't able to slice the eye open. But I got the laser, so it's really interesting. It only took like less than 10 minutes. So 10 minutes and you're finished. But you pay $4,000. And then for 3 days, you're blind as a bat. You can't see anything. You can't even look at your phone. So you just sit there in your living room with a hat, sunglasses on, and the windows closed and everything. But then
listen to books.
You could do that, yeah, but you need someone to like turn on everything for you because you cannot see anything at all. But now I got like nearly 20/20 vision, and considering before, if I were to read a document, it would need to be like this close. Now it can be the other side of the room and I can see it no problem. So money well spent. In terms of money, I would 100% do it again, hands down.
God. So you're 20/20 now. You have 20/20 vision.
I got like 2019 because my left eye was terrible. I can't describe how blind I was. So.
Okay. So now it's your turn. Right?
Me. All right. Let's see. There's so many good words. This is a good one, actually. Oh, actually, I don't know. I don't know which one I want to do. All right. So this is one that will help people a lot, and it will help you progress as a human. It will help you mature. It'll help you in your professional life. It will help you in your language learning journey. All right. And again, it's 3 words. So it's kind of like a collocation. And the first word is own, O-W-N. The second word is your, Y-O-U-R. What is the third word? So let me just type it up. Own your something. And it's not tangible. You know, you can't touch it. You can't take it. Sometimes you can kind of see it. Sometimes you might see this thing, Own your something.
So, the phrase overall means when you own your something, what does it mean in?
Oh, boom. Ghazal
Okay.
Husseini. I'm not good with names.
Especially Middle Eastern names.
I'm getting better, definitely getting better at them, but yes. I mean, I could write some Irish names here and you'd all be lost, so.
Do you remember Barack Obama's middle name? His middle name was Hussein. So it's like another way of spelling that and pronouncing that, because in Arabic you would say Hussein when it becomes Farsi. That's also part of my last name, Hussein. So yeah, just a little lesson on Azol's last name. So own your mistakes. Amazing phrase.
Yeah, I think it's extremely important because it kind of relates to accountability. You know, it kind of relates to the fact that if you make a mistake, don't not accept that you did something wrong. And as a language instructor for the last, 7 years now, I think I've been teaching English. And it's kind of just like, I see a huge difference in students when they are able to own their mistakes and they're able to laugh at themselves and they're able to see like, oh, this is hilarious. Like, I'll give you a great example. I had a student and she just had a baby and she was talking about giving food to the baby. And I was like, so tell me what you did last night. And she goes, oh, yesterday I went home, I made food, I ate the food, and then I ate the baby. And it's just so funny because it was like, you ate your baby? Like, did you have some salt with the baby? And like all these questions. And she realized it. But she didn't get embarrassed. She didn't get self-conscious. She laughed her ass off because she realizes that, hey, this is a funny mistake. And then later on, like several times throughout the year, she would bring that up as an example of making mistakes. And guess what? She was the student who progressed faster than any other student I had.
Mm-hmm. You have to have mistakes and then own your mistakes in order to improve and make progress. There's no other way around it. And you know, the thing that we talk about vulnerability and how it is okay or not okay to be vulnerable to strangers. The people that I talked about that would take advantage of your vulnerability are usually people who judge themselves and other people so harshly with regard to mistakes. You know, they won't forgive you. They won't let you make mistakes and then make amends and, you know, move on. So they just judge you and criticize you so harshly for the mistakes that you've made. And probably in that space, you're not allowed to own your mistakes.
Yeah. You should all, like, as a teacher, it's our duty to create an environment where students can own their mistakes and to create an environment where students are not afraid to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful environment, right?
Yeah.
So I want to talk about this comment. Opening my new butt was my own mistake. This is another use and part of speech of own, because own could be an adjective, a pronoun, and a verb, right? So we were talking about the use of it as a verb. So to own something, which could also have two very different meanings. When you own something, the other meaning of it, let's see if people can tell us about that. If, for example, you own something, I'm not going to give more hints.
This.
You own that.
And I could say, this is my own person.
Exactly. That's the meaning of it as an adjective.
Yeah.
So that's what you're using. My own mistake. Yes, very good. Have. So
here's my own opinion, for example.
And then that's the adjective. Your own opinion, his own opinion. So your own mistake, that's another meaning and part of the speech of own. And we also have this. That's such a good coincidence because I just wanted to talk about this. Ronan, would you tell us about that?
Yeah, so if you own up to something, you come clean. You admit that you did something. So I can always think of examples when I was a kid and I would do something bad in the house, and then my mom would come in and she would see, I don't know, for example, milk on the floor. Let's say, imagine I'm drinking milk and I don't clean it up, and she goes, who spilled milk on the floor? And I'd be like, it was me, I'm sorry, I'll clean it up. That is me owning up to something. In this case, owning up to putting milk on the floor. Weird example, but
very good example. And Muhammad is also saying admit, which is synonymous with own up to, and it is also very similar to own your mistakes. If you own your mistakes, it means that you accept and admit that you made them and you want to make amends and make up for them, right? And then
I feel like if you own up to your mistakes, you are like really saying, look, guys, I messed up, I'm extremely sorry. And for me, there's more learning when you own up to your mistakes. And what was the other? If you own up to something, yeah, similar. I'm just trying to think, is there a difference? I don't know. Sorry for hiding.
And then Ghazal is saying ownership, which is the noun, which actually has both meanings. So for example, you can say the ownership of your house, the ownership of something, which means possession and having. What?
Car ownership.
Car ownership, which means when you have your car. And then the ownership of your mistakes, or ownership of something, which means the responsibility and accountability that you feel when it comes to mistakes. Okay. In Irish, is it impolite to, or in Canada, to say what instead of what was that? Or could you say that again? Or pardon me?
To say what?
Like I just did. I said what?
It depends on your intonation. Really depends on your intonation, like a lot of it. I mean, some people would say, excuse me. Some people would say, could you say that again? Or say what? But in Ireland, we would say what a lot. In Canada, I've never had an issue. But if someone comes up and says, so if you put your arms out and you go, what? Then that's trouble. You know, that's trouble if someone says it. But if they go, what? It's different.
Okay. All right. So let's go to the next word. I want to ask about this phrasal verb. It is it could be a phrase or an idiomatic phrase, expression, with three parts. So the first part is a phrasal verb, and then we have an adjective. Okay. So when you use that adjective, the whole phrase, it means when you can't live up to your promises. You can't live up to, deliver on your promises and deliver on your, what was that word that you asked about? Commitment. It can't deliver on your commitments. You can't deliver on your promises. You don't do enough in order to fulfill that promise. It starts with, should I say what it starts with? Or
go for it. Give us a hint, because I'm drawing a blank right now.
Okay. I'm going to tell you what it starts with. I'm going to tell you about the letter. It starts with a C.
C.
The first verb starts with a C. And if you consider the first two parts, the phrasal verb, it also means to think of something to say, or to think of an answer, to think of something to say, to create something.
Not commitment.
Not commitment. It's a three-part phrase. So I'm going to give the first one because I think, very good, Hazan. Awesome, awesome.
On fire.
I love that. Yeah. So to come up short.
Oh, that's great.
And then F, Z, and D is saying come up with. That was when you give an answer or think of a solution or an answer, or you say something, you think of something to come up with something. But if you come up short, it means you can't deliver on your commitment.
Yeah. There's so many ways to use it. Like, so for example, if you come up short with rent, you're in a lot of trouble. You're in a lot of trouble. And that means you do not have enough money to pay your rent, which is not good.
Yes. So you can use it in terms of money and materials.
Mm-hmm.
Come up short with something.
You might come up short in a race or a competition. Come up short in an exam. And obviously that's not good.
Great examples. Thank you. You're a great help.
Likewise.
So I wanted to discuss, I don't know if you agree with this or not, but I'm just going to discuss this that someone said earlier. We were talking about the political situation, and someone said, you shouldn't go into that. You know, people voted and support the current president, you know, all don't at all, just wondering. It's not nice for public people to say that in public. So I just wanted to speak up about that. I think you should speak up about things that you feel passionately about. It is, again, it goes back to how frightened you are about other people's opinion of you. I feel like if people want to dislike me or unfollow me because of my certain political and personal and religious and social opinions, they're absolutely free to do that. I'm not going to hold anything against them because they feel that way, or they don't like it, or they unfollow me. That's their choice. And I have lost a lot of followers based on the things that I've said, especially about religion. And I never check, not never, I hardly ever check to see if that's happened. But that's how I want to live my life. I think for me to be who I am and not pretend to be someone else, and not to want to gag myself because someone might not like it, because I understand the business side of it and all that, but that's who I am. I'm just going to talk about my opinions, and you probably have a platform that you can use to talk about the things that you feel passionately about too. So I'm not saying that my opinion is the absolute truth. I mean, Trump might be a mentally stable, as he says, genius, moral, ethical person. I don't know. I might be absolutely wrong about that. But that's my opinion. I might be wrong and prejudiced and stupid, but that's who I am.
To add to that, people have always said, you don't talk about religion, you don't talk about politics. The biggest reason why we have problems is because people do not talk about religion and politics. For me, I'm not one bit religious, but I would love to engage in conversation with everybody about religion. I would love to engage with everybody in conversations about politics, and I always adopt a critical pedagogy. I mean, look at my page, look at the shit I post, you know, and I guarantee you there's a lot of people who don't like the stuff I do, and there's a lot of people that do like the stuff I do. But at the end of the day, if you don't talk about it, you're never going to progress as a society.
Yeah. So I just wanted to discuss
Couldn't agree more with you, Firuzeh. Could not agree more with you.
Thank you guys for all your supportive words and emojis. Thank you. Thank you. So let's move to the next one.
All right. Is it my turn or your turn?
It's yours.
It's me. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is another collocation. I'm all about the collocations today. You know, I always love good old collocations. And this is about make. So we're going to make something. And that, look, we all know there's a lot of collocations with the verb make. So you can make dinner. Absolutely. You can make a friend. 100%. But this is not about this. This is not about making friends. This is about making... This is about when there was a problem with a person and you decide to engage in dialogue with the person. Oh my God,
you can't do that. Let the man talk.
Just didn't stole my thunder, but that's okay.
Very good. So
to make amends. Make a decision, good, but this one was all about making amends.
Make money.
So, to make amends is you've identified a problem with a person and you decide to talk to that person and to try solve the problem and become friends again, for example, or to at least become civil to each other. to make amends. You made a mistake. So just remember this. For example, I piss off Firuzeh for whatever reason. I do not know why, but she is super angry at me, and it is my fault. 100% me. So number one, I own up to my mistake. I accept accountability. And then number two, I go to Firuzeh and I apologize. And I talk to her. And I say, look, I'm really sorry. What I did was wrong. That is me making amends.
It's okay. It's okay. I understand.
Thank you so much.
And as I was saying, compensate, which is synonymous with that. You make up for. Also, we have that. To make things right. That's Absolutely. Good. To make things right. To compensate. To, if you're looking for a more academic word, probably for your IELTS or TOEFL, we can say recompense. To recompense for something. And you can also say to own up to your mistakes. If you own up to your mistakes, you compensate and you make up for. Okay.
Absolutely. I need to make amends with, and that's what we say, make amends with. So the preposition is with a person, for example.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And amend is also a verb on its own. If you say to amend something, it means to modify or edit or revise something, usually like a piece of writing or something that's written. Sometimes.
Amend your essay, amend the Constitution, amend the law.
And that's where we have the word amendment, right?
Yes.
Which is like sometimes it's synonymous with law. A law that's been modified or amended. Atonement is a good word for compensation or when you make up something, and then redress.
Very formal, very academic words there.
To atone for something, atonement is the noun for atone for something. If you atone for your mistakes, that has a religious context primarily, right?
I'm going to look up that word right now so I can get the right definition. To atone. Yeah, to atone, to make amends or reparation. Yes. He wants to atone for his past mistakes. So Scrooge would be the best example from A Christmas Carol.
Scrooge? Oh, Scrooge. Okay. Okay, so let me ask about this verb that she uses. I really like the way that she uses it. Again, it has two different meanings. Sometimes it is like the physical act of doing something, and then it has this conceptual, like more figurative meaning. It is what you do in a car when the engine is not working. What you do is, or the ignition is not working. What you do is that instead of using the key, you, I should have looked it up first. I don't know what you do. You connect the wires to start the engine when the key doesn't work, when the ignition doesn't work. So you do that to start the car. And very good for that word. So now let's talk about the meaning of it that she uses in the talk. So she says to hot wire connection, right? So sometimes if you hot wire something, so your connection or a relationship, to jumpstart is different. I think connecting the wires was jumpstart, right?
Jumpstart is when you get one car to connect to the battery of another car.
Yeah, that's different. What?
I had to do that a lot with my last car.
Yeah. So the way she uses it is, so you guys tell me what it means when you hot wire connection. So if you hot wire something, instead of doing it the regular standard way, you hot wire it. What could it mean? Fierce competition here going on. Yeah. That's nice to see, isn't it?
Competition is great. It elevates us all.
To jumpstart a car is to start its engine by pushing the car or by using jump LEDs.
Cables. I'd say jump cables. That's what I would say.
Jump cables. But it's made of lead, is it?
I couldn't tell you. I do not. I know shit all about cars. So.
So to taking a detour, I love that. Yes.
You're going to
Very
bypass
good.
something. You bypass something.
To bypass. So if you don't do something in the regular systemic right way, and you want to bypass it and come up with a shortcut, right, or a detour. So she talks about connection, and she talks about this idea of some people trying to hardwire connection instead of taking the time and build trust and accountability and reliability over time.
Yeah.
They want to jumpstart it or hardwire it. I'm changing her words. To cut corners, I also like that. That's similar. Very good. You don't do something effectively and completely and thoroughly. You just do it haphazardly. So what is she talking about? What do people do to hardwire connection? I think it's such an interesting and fascinating idea, and it just blew my mind when I heard it, because I always thought about it, but then putting it that way, that why people do that is such a great idea. Start from scratch? Not probably. It's the opposite of that. Detour.
To hotwire a connection with another person.
So to lie, Ibrahim says to lie, not to lie. No, she doesn't talk about that. That should also be what she says. Do you remember, Ronan, what she says?
No, but I'm looking at it right now, and I'm going to try to find. Oh, yes. Okay.
So what do you think? Like without reading that, like.
Okay, so without reading, if we're talking about hot wiring a connection with a person, we would try to almost manipulate them. We try to become friends with them in a shallow way, or just face value. But we're not like really committed to that person. You know, we're going to hotwire a friendship with this person. We're going to bypass the things that make friendship worthy, and we're just going to try to go to the end product.
These are all great ideas, and right, absolutely. What she says is something else. Get help from other experience to cheat.
I see it now. I see it. Yeah. So, do you want me to read it, or?
Yeah, I would love that.
So, a lot of times we share things that are not ours to share as a way to hotwire connection with a friend. So that is so true. And it's like, I was going to say this for the next word, but I'll just say it now. Gossiping. You know, absolute gossip. Hey, Firuzeh, did you hear what Mary said? OMG. And we go talking about Mary in order to build our connection. But then our friendship is just built on lies and bullshit and gossiping. And that's not a stable foundation.
Yes. Giving away other people's secrets as a way of bonding. And she puts it really interesting way. She says, our closeness and intimacy is based on a common enemy. You know, we're here in the zone, and then we create these enemies of these people who are strangers. I mean, that's a little different from this idea of gossiping. And because a lot of times when people gossip, they also have kind of like close relationships with those people. They just come to you and they gossip about them, and then they go to them and gossip about you. So it's like kind of like this crazy mix of all these gossips and rumors that circle around. So yeah, she calls that.
And if someone gossips to you, be very careful what you tell that person, because they're going to gossip about you to someone else. So
definitely.
Absolutely. It's frustrating.
So, to reveal someone's secret in a tempting way. Yes, that's a very good way of putting it. To reveal
it's a cheap trick to try and get friends.
Okay.
My turn?
What did I do? What is this hard on my... What happened?
I was just going to say, did you just get a new tattoo or something? It's gone.
Oh, that's so funny. How does this happen?
Oh, it's probably because you pressed the smiley face at the bottom, I'm guessing.
It's scary. I'm going to remove it.
All right.
Backbite means to gossip. Yes, to talk behind people's backs.
Backbite. I haven't heard that one before.
Backbite?
Yeah, that's a new one for me. Oh, to talk maliciously about someone who's not present. What? That's a word? No way. Wow.
You're so adorable. I love the way that you talk about the words that you don't know so openly, and you mention them, because a lot of people just, you know, gloss over it and move to the next word.
I know what that means. I know what backbite is.
Yeah, okay, backbite. Okay. And sometimes when, you know, it's wrong and someone says something, because I've done that. You know, someone says this and I say, okay, yeah, and then I look it up and I've kind of like realized that it was not a word. It's just a lot more embarrassing than to say what.
Well, I own my mistakes. I own my lack of knowledge
awesome.
about words.
It's just awesome. It's awesome. I mean, it's so amazing because a lot of people don't know that. But it's so amazing how so many native speakers don't know certain words.
Oh my God, it's insane.
Like, educated academics who don't know certain words that I sometimes, you know, I've made this mistake of saying, oh, you're kidding. Like you say you don't know that word, you're kidding. And then they're like, no, I don't know it. What does it mean? Yeah, because a lot of times people have this misconception that natives know all these words because English has such a wide range of vocabulary, and there's no way.
Let me tell you a quick anecdote. When I started teaching English 7 years ago, I did not have a clue about English grammar. If you asked me, what is a noun? What is a verb? What is an adjective? I'd be like, I don't freaking know. I speak English. That's all I can tell you. Because I was a history teacher. I was a religion teacher. But I can tell you everything about history. I can tell you a lot about religion. But about English itself, I knew nothing. And only after a couple of years and experience, and then actually like studying grammar, and then being like, first conditional. What, there's a first conditional? Does that mean there's a third and a fourth conditional or something? Like I didn't have a notion of it. And like, there's a big misconception that, hey, you're a native speaker, you must be a good teacher. No, it's not true. There's a misconception that, hey, you learned English as a second language, you must be a good teacher. No, it's not true. Nothing makes you automatically a good teacher. You got to research, you got to get experience, and you got to own the fact that you're not perfect, and only then you can become a good teacher.
Yeah, yeah. And it's so interesting because a lot of, I mean, I've talked to some Iranians who have told me, like, I've asked a native speaker and they've told me this. So this might be, what you're saying must be wrong because I've asked a native speaker. And then, it's so amazing that they say that. You know, they always think asking a native speaker is the best way of finding out about the meaning of something or the structure of something, or but people with different majors or different fields of study or different, concerns in life don't concern themselves with the grammar of the sentence or the exact meaning of the word.
We never learn.
A lot of times they also, would you agree with that, that a lot of times native speakers use words sometimes incorrectly?
100%. 100%. Colloquialisms maybe as well. And it all depends where you're from. It depends how you're raised. It depends who's around you. Because if you go to my hometown, we're going to use a different variation, a different dialect of English compared to another part of the country of Ireland, for example. And, if you're a non-native speaker and you go to the west of Ireland and suddenly you're exposed to this Irish version of English and then this West Coast Irish version of English, it's very different to the Northern Irish or the Southern Irish version of English, for example.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But like, we don't learn grammar. We don't learn noun, verbs, adjectives when we grow up. We never learn that. I remember learning it in French. I remember learning it in Irish, but I never learned it in English until I became a teacher. And I realized...
But at school you have it, right?
No, never.
I mean, never. English, you have English grammar.
Yeah, we study poetry. We study poetry. We study plays. We study playwrights. We study culture.
Like in elementary school? Because here, kids have it.
See, it's different. In Ireland, we have a whole different system. And I know in the US, a lot of my American friends could tell me the grammar, and they could talk about the Oxford comma. They could talk about X, Y, or Z, about grammar, everything. They could talk about word families. But in Ireland, no one ever teaches that. We never use those words. We like, as I said, when I started teaching English, when I started my career as an English teacher, if you said what's a noun, I wouldn't have known how to define a noun.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Mm-hmm.
But then years of study and years of experience, now I feel I'm extremely competent in it. So,
because, you know, I've heard really discouraging comments from teachers who say, you know, you should never use that word in a sentence. It's just too slangy or too formal. They kind of just, they make people frightened of speaking because of all these judgments. I've asked a native speaker, this is like a word from someone, I've asked the native speakers and they said, we would never use that. We would never say that. You know, just asking one person and then that person telling you they would never say that, that's not the biggest reference point, you know? We can always just look it up and...
It's register. It's all about register, and it's about what English do you use in what situation. For example, in my hometown, a common way to greet a person is to say, well, boy. Well, boy, what's going on? And I'll say it to my sister, I'll say it to my mother, I'll say it to my father.
Interesting.
You know?
Well, boy.
Well, boy, what's going on? How are you? And that's what we say. But if I go to Canada and I say, well, boy, it's kind of like, well, no, we don't say that here. And that's a legit thing. So that's the correct, if I go into an interview, I don't walk into the interview and say, well, boy, how's it going? You know?
Do you miss saying that to people?
Absolutely, because sometimes it might be considered a racial slur over here. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Racial slur.
Because like in the past, black people would have been referred to as boys. Hey, boy, get to work, or something like that.
Okay.
And I remember there was some Irish athletes who would say it in interviews, and the American media would eat them up. And it's kind of like, back up, guys.
Okay.
Different type of English. Understand it.
And someone wrote down the racial slur.
Oh, there we go. Depends where you are.
Okay. I think we have time for one more question.
I'll let you take it away.
Yeah?
Yeah, go
So
for
we have
it.
time for two.
How much time have we got?
Yeah. Do you have another one? It hasn't given me the limit of 2 minutes yet, so I believe 3 minutes.
All right, let's see. Okay, this is one where there's a bit of an expression to go along with it. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So if myself and Firuzeh hate John, John is a something enemy. What is the adjective? Something enemy. The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Mm-hmm. So you're looking for this word, this adjective that starts with C.
Yes.
And it means mutual.
Exactly.
Good, Razan. I love that. Common.
Yes, your common enemy. And if you have a common enemy, it's something that, like, in Irish history, we've had a lot, because there's been a lot of enemies to Ireland, and we'd always try to team up with the enemy of my enemy, essentially. And there's the French expression there. L'ennemi de mon ennemi est mon ami. Aren't I a natural?